Hola, everybody. Welcome to Real City Ambassadors podcast. Here at this podcast, in these live streams, what we're going to dive into the stories of the known, unknown, and rising legends who shape and elevate the Bay Area cultures. So in this conversations that we're going to have in these platforms, we're going to be having these conversations with people in the music industry, in the nonprofit world, in the tech industry, artists, people in the political spheres, educators, you name it. They're all going to be in this platform. My first guest, our first episode, is a person, a buddy of mine, who I met in 2007 in UC San Diego. And just a preface to who he is, I remember going to San Diego. He's a year older than I am. Didn't even know the campus. And I heard someone say, "Have you met this person?" And I said, "No, why?" "Well, how do you not know him? You're from the Bay, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. What's up?" He's like, "Well, he's all Bay. If you look at him, if you talk to him, if you're around him, he's a lot of the Bay of what you represent." So I was like, "Man, I got to meet this person." And then I did. We crossed paths. I don't know, maybe you can talk about it. And his name is Charlie L. Morales. He is now a equity-minded counselor, a San Francisco native, raised in mainly San Francisco and then in other parts as well, similar to my background. And one thing I really admire is that a lot of roads lead to Charlie, roads that are from the Latino community, from the African-American community, the Pacific Islander community, Asian community. A lot of folks reference and know Charlie. And, I've known him for a while too. So it's really my privilege to bring him on and have him introduce himself. Charlie.
Rodrigo, my brother, ¿cómo estás?
Bien. How you doing?
I'm alive and well. Just blessed to be here.
That's what's up. And so introduce yourself, because some people know you. Folks that are going to be outside of our immediate circles may not. ¿Quién eres? Who's Charlie?
So, my people, mi gente, welcome to this podcast called The Real City Ambassadors, hosted by Rodrigo Duran, one of my good friends. My name is Charlie L. Morales, also known as Charlie Hustle or The Hustle. Got that nickname since I was really young. Born and raised in San Francisco, General Hospital, 1988. For those of you that were born there. And also currently I'm a counselor at Laney College and Skyline College. I just finished up at San Jose City College. So shout out to all those colleges doing amazing work. I'm a son of two immigrant Salvadoran parents. Mm-hmm. My parents came here in August of 1980 from El Salvador. And so they had 5 children with them at that time. And now they had 13 children. So I'm one of 13.
Wow.
Actually the number 10. So anybody that's the 10th child in their family, shout out to y'all.
I don't think we find a lot of 10th childs in the United States, or less in the Bay. So you got a huge family, man.
Yeah.
And so, I met maybe half of them only.
Yeah. I think you met a good amount. And so my family is so huge. It's only grew since coming to San Francisco. My family's been all over San Francisco, and so being the 10th child out of my family. Oh, thank you for pulling up the map.
Yeah, so, let's show people real quick, kind of when we talk about San Francisco, where you've been. Maybe we can bring this out. So tell us.
So in 1980, my family came here and we started in the Mission District.
So we
we're about on McCoppin Street, 14th, about 14th of Valencia. That's more the main cross street. And so we started there, and I was actually born in they started off homeless, and they found a one bedroom apartment at that time. And then from there, my family was fortunate enough my dad was fortunate enough to find work. And so we moved from the Mission District to the brick homes in Visitation Valley.
Okay,
right next
so
to
hold on. This fast. So y'all moved from here, moved south, all the way to the very tip of the, I guess you can call the border between Daly City and San Francisco.
Yep, we moved there.
And there's this little Hollywood. All right, man. Let me interject. What's this little Hollywood, man? Like, Do you even know why they call it Little Hollywood?
Not
There's
really
nothing
sure.
very Hollywood about.
Yeah, not really
the
sure, but
zone.
that's where the city dumps are at, is actually.
No
So
way.
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
that's true. I know. That's funny
yeah.
that they call it Little Hollywood. But anyways, going back. So
And
Viz Valley.
so we moved there in about the 90s when they still had the Geneva Towers next
Mm,
to near the projects, but we lived in the brick homes from there. And from there, we moved to Bayview, Hunters Point, Third
okay.
Street. And
So right
so,
here, so Third Street's probably where the cutoff point between Terrace and Bayview, right? This might
yep,
be Third.
yep,
Uh-huh.
we live right there on the cusp, right where the old Foods Co was at, the
Yeah. It's
Califoods.
still there. Oh,
The
now it's
Califoods
Fusco.
used to be Califoods, and
Uh-huh. Yeah.
right before they right before they
Callum Foods.
yeah,
I haven't heard that one in a minute. Okay.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
right before they built the police station there. So and then from there, my family was fortunate enough to buy a house in 97, 98,
Mhm.
right on the border, top of the hill, Daly City. So literally
Mm.
across the
So
street.
right, so
Uh,
Crocker Amazon's right here, Outer Mission. So it's probably somewhere here, right? Where
it's by Crocker Amazon, so
uh-huh.
a little
It's okay.
down right there.
Okay.
And so we live literally on the border across the street to San Francisco. And so
Mm.
my family's owned a house there since 97. And so that's
Mm.
kind of where I kind of moved around growing up. And then, but I also lived in Portola, lived in Lakeview, Potrero Hill.
No way.
If you grew up in San Francisco and you were fortunate enough to live in one neighborhood and one house, you were blessed. But our
Mm.
family was huge and big. When you have a family of 15, it's hard
Yeah.
to find a living situation that can accommodate everybody. And because due to the .com boom and hyper gentrification, the cost
Right.
of living skyrocketed, and it was very difficult to find housing.
Yeah, we all moved around. I not only moved around within San Francisco, but I also moved around the Bay. I also
Yeah,
lived in Oakland. Disclaimer: I've also lived part of my life in Oakland, so I got love for Oakland as well. And
yeah,
we move around, and that's why when I in my mission statement I say Bay Area cultures plural, because even though when we speak about the Bay Area to people outside or people from outside want to speak about the Bay Area, they lump us in a culture, which is great. But we know what it's like in the haystack. We know how it's like in Vallejo, in Oakland, in San Francisco, the city, right? And how each one has its own cultures. And then within that, there are subcultures. And, that's part of the reason why I wanted to make this platform, this podcast. But let's talk about the city. So when we talk about cities that you represent, do you represent one for the most part, or are there a few?
Since I mainly grew up in San Francisco and Frisco, I represent the city to the fullest, the
Mm-hmm.
415.
Mm-hmm.
So represent because that's where my family started over here, but our roots go to El Salvador. So not
Yeah,
only do I represent El Salvador, I represent for all the Latinos as well. I represent
claro.
for the Mission District and particularly, but really the whole city. But I also lived 5 years in San Diego at UC San Diego where we met.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, and then I spent 2 years in LA. So really, I always will represent, always know where I came from, San Francisco. But I
Yep.
represent California as a state because
Right,
we're
right.
the Golden State. And so with the Golden
Yes.
State, so we got to represent.
Yay! That's what my logo is also. Full gold. Well, tell us about, so in San Francisco it is. In 3 words, how would you describe for you? Because I want to remind people, like, these
Absolutely.
are journeys that I'm taking with real city ambassadors to see through their eyes and their memories what those cities were like and are like now. So through your lenses, what are 3 words that describe San Francisco?
So the first word I would describe the city, my lens, is warriors. We are warriors,
Mm-hmm.
and by warriors I mean we always come up, we show up, and we acknowledge our indigenous roots and
Mm-hmm.
the land we stay in. So, for example, we try to always acknowledge that we are on Ohlone territory and this is their native land.
Facts.
And then not
Facts.
only that, when people try to invade and take over our where we grew up, and as SF natives, you got to remember that we are on the brink of extinction. We are endangered species because we've been economically pushed out of San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco. Over 15,000 families have been pushed out since the .com boom, and so it's really, really, really difficult to still live here. It's
Yeah.
very rare.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because same here. You're like, we went to UC San Diego. I moved to San Diego. I lived a year abroad in Brazil. Um, And then I came back, got into the workforce, and I didn't realize what like that we were unicorns in this land that we grew up, and most of us were born in, that they're like, no way, you're from San Francisco. Like, tell me what's your favorite blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll have this conversation with you. It's cool. But then I started to realize, yeah, there are very few of us that are still in the city, the few, the proud, what have you. So I want to just echo what you just said, because, I already have that script ready. Basically, when people do the whole like, oh my God, I can't believe you're San Francisco. I was like, all right, I got the script. What do you want to know?
You from the city? You for real from the city?
I know. But let's go back again. So you said Warriors. What's the second and third one?
So if you could refer back to the San Francisco flag or the seal of San Francisco, there's a slogan. One? Yes, that one. So there's a slogan. It says Oro en Paz, Fiero en Guerra. That means golden peace, reference to we were the golden city because of the gold rush was discovered and went through San Francisco to get those riches.
Right.
Fiero en Guerra means iron force in war. That means if you mess with us, we are an iron force. We will come at you relentlessly, and that's what I mean by us being a warrior. And the symbol of is the phoenix, because in 1906 we suffered a great it was a big earthquake that
it caused a great fire.
But it caused the earthquake. But two-thirds of the city burned down.
Yeah.
The aftermath of that fire. And so
exactly. That's really what impacted the city. And so, and I just want to throw quick. So if you look at my the logo for Real City Ambassadors, that's the reason why I chose the phoenix inside the flag. It's small, and it's okay. It wasn't meant for everyone to know what it is or see what's inside, but just for me, as a way to put like a stamp on the city that I'm from. I looked at also the seal there and thought, you know what? We're like the phoenix, we're always rising. We get pulled down and we go through so many changes, because San Francisco is, first of all, really small. It's a small 7-by-7 mile radius city. And it's constantly changing, some for the better, some for the worse, but whatever gets thrown at us that's negatively, we flip it, we rise up. Ooh. So anyway, so that's the second one. And let me show you, you know what I found on Facebook on your profile.
Yeah.
Well, this was your graduation from?
This is when I graduated from USC in 2019. And so this was my graduation photo. I did my boy J Short 707 from Vallejo. He did this photo shoot for me. He was my main. I used to live with that guy, and we used to live in San Diego together. So of course I represent the flag, because not many people know we even have a flag. And so I even went to my old elementary school at Carver Elementary in the Bayview, and I took my flag in there, and kids thought I was a superhero, and my cape and my graduation cap, because it's important. It was really important for me to always go back to where my roots were, so that I can pay it forward and give back.
And so tell me, what's the third word that describes, or did you already go through that one?
Defiant.
Okay.
The reason why I would say defiant is because when people cross the line and try to take advantage of our people, our native people, we show up. We show up in solidarity, and that's why it's S. That's why people have the S. I don't know if y'all could see it. That's the wrong way. The SF. And so we are defiant in the sense that we dictate. We are the leaders in many respects to revolutionize the industry and the rest of the world. People follow our footsteps. That's why we have the the hippie movement, the love movement in the 60s, right? The gold rush. You can look at the gay rights movement.
Exactly.
I believe I believe we have 16% of the city is LGBTQ. San Francisco. And so there's a variety of different ways that we show up, and we we're really the innovators and the game changers.
A lot of the mentality, when I look back and speak with, let me just keep it very simple, fellow Latinos, right? And when I was studying in San Diego and I met Latinos from all over California, there's a mindset to people that are from the Bay. And I was always wondering, like, where does it come from? Where does this ability to kind of just, mold ourselves to adapt to any kind of environment, where does that come from? And honestly, it comes down to our upbringing and our education. I can't speak for public school systems being, phenomenal, but a lot of I will say though, I will give credits to a lot of my teachers for really shaping who I am as a person, shaping some of my values. And so I wanna take some time and also talk about what school you came from and how maybe those schools and teachers shaped who you are today. So tell us like your trajectory from elementary school all the way to high school. Where were we?
Oh man! So when you had 13 kids and you keep moving around, we hit the whole spectrum. And so for myself personally, I started off at Carver Elementary in the Bayview. I moved to Charles Drew, which was up the street in the Bayview as well. And then when my family bought a house in top of the hill, I ended up switching to George Washington. It's an elementary school right there by the top of the hill. And then I also went to Policita in Daly City. And then from there, I went to start off at Leadership High School, which later on I ended up going back to teach as a substitute teacher, which launched my education career. And then I transferred to Jefferson High School. So in 2006, class of 2006, represent.
Let me go back then. So I pulled this photo from online about your school, Carver Elementary, and you said it's located on Potrero Hill.
No, it's in the Bayview.
In the Bayview, and I really like this quote. And when I looked at it, it resonated with a lot of the work that you're doing now. Education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom. And in the background, it's got what is this?
It's the periodic table, and this
George the periodic table. Okay.
Yeah, George Washington Carver, which was. Yep.
And I know that we're barely finding out who he is. Unfortunately, like I had all these folks that represented each school that I went to, but didn't know who they were until afterwards. I mean, we were just reading about him. Can you tell us a little bit what we just read about Senor Carver?
What I remember was that he was an inventor, but also what I found out recently, like looking through the website, he was one of the first black. He started off as a slave and ended up using education as a key forward to escape poverty. And also, he was the first agriculture scientist at Tuskegee, the Tuskegee Institute. And so he contributed in many ways in the field of science. That's why you see the periodic table right there. And in my own philosophies, I do believe education is the best sound method toward not just escaping poverty, because we don't want to just escape poverty. We want to end poverty, especially for the most disadvantaged folks and historically underrepresented and under-resourced communities such as the Bayview, where the Black population has died down to, I believe, 3% of San Francisco.
Yeah, I think and names hold a lot of power. Visuals hold a lot of power, and you see this is a work of art. Someone who's probably a master graffiti artist, painter, put this beautiful mural together, and even that in of itself speaks volumes, right? You see an image and you're like, well, who is that person? It's so important to see the people that look like us reflected on the walls, reflected on history books. And right now there's a controversy of like, well, what should be the names of certain elementary, middle, high schools in San Francisco? Why should we change them? And I'll tell you a quick story. It didn't hit home until I got older and didn't realize just kind of the importance of it. But I went to school, elementary school in Chinatown. So I went to Chinatown, Mission, then Sunset, all over the place as well. But at the time, the school was called Commodore Stockton for, I don't know, I would say years, 30 years at least. It might have been called that. And right into the fourth grade, the name was changed to Gordon J. Lau. And I don't remember much, but I remember our teachers trying to explain to us, why are they changing the name? Because you just get used to it, right? And you associate yourself with that name. Oh no, I go to Commodore Stockton. Everyone in the city knows about it. And then they told it, look, that this person was in the military. Commodore Stockton was in the military. A lot of his actions weren't very positive. and they try to summarize it to us and said, we're changing to Gordon J. Lau because he is representative of Chinatown. He's a San Francisco native. He was an educator, and he promoted peace and education. And then, I said, okay, let me go play. It's recess time. But, as I got older, then I realized the impact, the importance of changing names and having names that are representative of the people that go to these places. So I just want to kind of interject real quickly and talk about that.
I think it's really, really important as warriors, as scholars, as people that know how to use their heart and be defiant to understand the histories. If the history is rooted in racism and hate, and that has caused damage, particularly to that community, it's important to flip that and to advocate. And so that's why you see victories like that happening right now. Now with the Black Lives Matter movement, you see people taking down these racist statues of people. Just and so you'll see, just like the NFL, they just finally had the pressure to change the Chiefs logo because the Redskins,
but
right?
they didn't come up with a name at all.
Yeah.
They're just calling it the Washington Football Team. Come on, that's a little on the lame side. Can you imagine? I can imagine so many people of color, especially like our native brothers and sisters. They came up with a bunch of names that they could use that were positive, and they just said, "Nope, we're just gonna stick to bland Washington Football Team." But it is a step forward, obviously. I prefer that than. But anyway, that's just a side note. That's un poco de chisme. It's a little gossip. But we can get to that too, because this is a free platform. We're just getting to know you, but we also want to talk about just what's around us at the moment. UCSD. So I want to know how you ended up all the way in San Diego, because I ended up in San Diego just because I had never gone to campus, man.
Same.
I didn't know anyone in San Diego. I went to Lowell High School, so a lot of the folks there, I also didn't know. It was such a big high school, so I didn't know a lot of the people that went to San Diego. But de pura, in Spanish they say just de pura chiripada. So out of nowhere, I ended up picking San Diego, which was, it's been the best choice, of course. But how did you end up at UC San Diego?
Since I moved around different schools in K through 12, I didn't really have like a per se mentor, and so I could like piece things together because I was ambitious and wanted to achieve greater things. I just had drops of little hope here and there, and so it's like really looking through like a microscope, like the little mirror through the door. It's like some people's like, go to college, do good. Or it's like, well, I don't see any Latino or anybody that looks like me or students like me that do good. And then one teacher took me to UC Berkeley, started there on 9th grade, and I was like, what? People pay you to go to class and give you money, you get financial aid and stuff. I didn't get it. It was a foreign concept to me. I was like, well, if they can do it, I'm gonna try to do it. So one of my older sisters went to UC Berkeley. She's like 3 years ahead of me. No, probably like 4 years ahead of me. And so I was like, well, if she could do it, then I could do it. And I tried, but it wasn't as, ideally want to get into UC Berkeley. And so like I struggled academically, but one thing that I'm known for is being resourceful. That's why they call me the hustle. And so it's a mentality. It's like, okay, I know where my shortcomings are. I know there's resources out there. I need to go find them. And one thing I learned from my sisters is never take no for an answer. So I don't care how many times you reject me, I'm gonna keep coming back until I get in the door.
I'm a pause. This is not the Thiz. This is more of a pause, but it's still the Thiz. Did you want to stay in San Francisco in the Bay?
I wanted to go to UC Berkeley like my sister.
Same.
But when it came to it, I was in my junior year, senior year, I did well academically, about a 3.0 B student, but I started hanging out with the wrong people and starting to get into some trouble. Turns out I ended up getting on probation, not academic probation. My senior year, and I was still able to get into UC San Diego. I applied to all the UCs at that time. It was called LULAC, some resource center that helped me.
LULAC.
And so one of the ladies in particular, she helped me tremendously throughout the application process, and her name was Maria Martinez, and she is now the dean of students at Lincoln High School. So shout out to Maria.
Get out.
Yeah, and so I got a fee waiver and I applied to the UCs, and then I ended up. I was like, "Where's San Diego?" And they're like, "Just click." I was like, "Okay."
And it's not even in San Diego.
Yeah,
It's in La Jolla, bro. It's like Marin.
Yeah. So they showed me on. They didn't even have Google Maps back then. They had MapQuest.
Yeah,
MapQuest,
that
and
was.
so I had to like search it up, and I was like, "Oh, I'll
Uh-huh.
apply there."
Yeah.
A few months later, I got acceptance, and I looked at my financial aid package. I was like, "Well, they're going to pay the most." And then
Yep.
I could have gone to USF. I could have gone to a variety of different schools at that time. But I actually failed my AP calculus class, so they're like, "Here, you got accepted on provisional." And then it's a
Mm.
provisional. So I was like, what the hell does that mean? Oh, and then
Uh-huh.
they revoked my acceptance by the end of spring. They was like, oh, you failed AP calculus, and
Damn.
you got below a 3.0, so you can't come here no more. So
Damn.
what the fuck? So
So what? So what did you do?
my older sister, she got a hold of my AP calculus professor, Mr. Berg
Mhm,
at Jefferson High
mhm,
School,
mhm.
and talked to him, and he let me retake my final. I retook
Uh-huh.
my friend at that
Uh-huh.
time was the valedictorian of the
Uh,
school, so she
uh,
helped tutor me for AP
okay.
calculus,
Oh,
and
she didn't give you the cheat sheet. Okay, okay.
no,
Nah.
no, so I had
The little one. Oh, let me
yeah.
see. No.
I had to retake that final, that
Uh-huh.
goddamn final. I
Uh-huh.
changed my grade, write a letter of appeal, and then send it myself. And then the day before the last orientation at UC San Diego, there was
Uh-huh.
like, "Hey, we somebody called the house phone because I didn't have a phone at that time, a cell phone."
Right, you had a pager.
And this is 12th grade, and this is 12th grade. And they're like,
Uh-huh.
"You got readmitted to the university. Can you come in tomorrow for orientation?" I said, "Thank." I was like, "Yes, I'll be there." Hung up the phone. I said, "Thank God." I was like, "Thank goodness to Jesus." And then I was like, "How the hell am I gonna get down there?" My older brother, I had to beg my brother to give me a ride down there. And so the night
That's hold
before,
up. People don't. That's a 10-hour ride, by the way.
yeah, but
People that
eight,
haven't
nine
gone all
hour,
the way to San
yeah,
Diego.
never been to San Diego in my life. Never
Same,
been.
same.
So
I think
so
I'd been to Tijuana.
yeah.
My parents drove us to Tijuana, so we passed San Diego. But I didn't know San Diego either. But anyway, so
So
go.
I put everything I own in the 3 garbage bags. By that time, my senior year, my mom kicked me out the house, and I was living with my other sister, and so I was helping take care of the kids, dropping them off to school, and then just like taking care of them. And then I ended up getting in. I actually enrolled at classes at City College because I thought it was over for me, and so I was like, I didn't waste my opportunity. And then
Wait, did you? Sorry, did you end up going to Summer Bridge?
I
Or you?
got into Summer Bridge, but because I got denied, they said you can't come to
God,
Summer Bridge anymore.
God,
But
bro. Yeah, you know the power and the impact that
yeah,
Summer Bridge had on a lot of people of color.
absolutely,
So if people don't
absolutely.
know, just real quick, Summer Bridge is a program for mainly first generation college students of color coming into UC San Diego. So you take classes in the summer prior to going into your first semester, and it's not only about preparing you with skill sets in writing and mathematics, but they do a 360 approach, meaning they teach you about the culture in San Diego, UC San Diego, and they teach you about the culture in college as a whole. They mentor you. They assign a mentor so that's older than you who will help you navigate the college experience for a year. And they also, how do I say, they also help you heal. We had courses where we really learn about how to communicate in terms of our family, our friends, our personal, let's say, demons, what have you. We learn how to respect each other, and more than anything, it just helps you to mature. So when you show up to a place like UC San Diego, and this is what we're going to talk about, when you hit that culture shock, you're filled with herramientas. You have these tools to back you up. You have already a safety net, and that is what Summer Bridge was. So you couldn't get into Summer Bridge because of that.
Yes, but
So
I talked to
uh-huh,
them, and they said if you come back in, hit
uh-huh.
us up, come to us, and we'll provide you additional support when you get here. Because I knew I needed
Nice,
support.
nice.
My
Did you do
sister
trio then?
yes, my
Mhm.
sister warned me about culture shock, but I was like, okay.
And then we coming from the Bay too.
Yeah. And so I started off at UC San Diego homeless. I was homeless for a week. My brother paid for the hotel for 2 days, and then he bounced. And then one lady at Thurgood Marshall, so UCSD is divided into 6 different colleges, mini colleges within the school. And so I met one of the deans, and they're like, they already knew I got reinstated. Nobody from the university knew, but they told them, and they're like, I had to find somebody somewhere in that campus. Is very confusing to navigate that space. And so they basically got somebody in a golf cart to go to the hotel and then drive my stuff to campus. And I found one person, my friend Katie at UC San Diego, one person that I knew. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have class. I didn't have anything except those 3 garbage bags that I own with all my life's belonging. And my friend Katie,
3 garbage bags.
I didn't have a luggage bag. I didn't have a luggage bag.
Dude, same here, man.
My friend Katie let me crash on her couch for a week until they found housing for me, and I lived on campus my first year. So I really started off with the odds against me. And if for those that don't know the statistics, for people of color, your first year is the most vulnerable time for them for the dropout. There's a big dropout rate specifically for people of color. The first year is very vulnerable. So there's a lot of friends that are lost.
Where did you find your niche? Since you didn't do Summer Bridge, but you did get some resources and support, where did you really find your niche within UC San Diego?
So I was kind of exploring. So the Oasis, where the Summer Bridge office is located, I went to them. So they gave me a specific counselor that I would check in like weekly, I believe. They put me in the OLCs, I believe they called it. And I used that to kind of find my way. And then some girl that I met on campus, she was from San Francisco, Maribel. She told me, hey, you should check out this organization and whatnot. I didn't really know anything about fraternities. And they introduced me to a fraternity, a Latino-based fraternity, and it was called Nu Alpha Kappa. And they played a pivotal role.
Right here?
Yep.
Is this the...
They played a pivotal role in really showing me love and showing me the ropes to navigate that space. And they disciplined me in the sense that they got me ready for the college courses and in terms of studying, tutoring, and really just time management and just really handling my business.
That's interesting.
So I use a combination of different resources on campus. I was part of the Black Student Union. I was part of the MECHA. I was part of a variety of different other organizations.
And I think that's how we crossed paths, like for the first time. So what made UC San Diego unique from all the UCs is, and I'm very proud of saying this, that we had the cross-cultural center. And again, just like I didn't realize how fortunate we were until we had these statewide people of color conferences. And then when it was hosted at UC San Diego, we said, oh, here's our cross-cultural center. And they're like, but you have the BSU and you have MECHA next to each other and you have the Filipino Community Center. What's going on? I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? That's just how things run in UC San Diego. And they're like, oh, no way, because in our campuses, the Latinos are on that side of campus and they have their resource center over there, the African-American over there, and so on and so forth. But we crossed paths, because I also went to BSU and MECHA. And I think that might have been one of the first places where we just said, what's up, man? And we touched base. But going back to NAC, because it sounds to me like the support system there was similar to what I had, but at Summer Bridge, Obviously, it's got its differences. Let's just talk about it. People have a certain perspective of what a fraternity is and what they represent and who those people that are in sororities and fraternities are. But let me hear from your lens, like, what is a fraternity for you, and what was NAC like being part of it for the 4 or 5 years you were there?
So NAC is a Latino-based fraternity, and as a Latino-based fraternity, they operate different from a traditional fraternity. So what you see on TV or media does not capture the character of Nu Alpha Kappa. And so we embrace all cultures, and as a fraternity, the main pillars are as you see with the book, with the lamp of knowledge, it represents wisdom. So wisdom, and then also the pyramid with the sun in the background, that represents the Latino culture. and
Right.
then the braced arms. That's our handshake. It represents brotherhood, and so that's kind of what represents our fraternity. And so we are West Coast based, mostly in the West Coast. We're over 4,000 brothers combined, and so we have been around since 1988. And so this fraternity redefines what it means to be a Latino male in a fraternity. And so we're really big on community, and we have a multicultural lens, even though we're Latino based. And so go ahead.
Tell me more about your experience in San Diego, because this is one very important aspect of your experience there. But what else did you get yourself involved in? What else were you part of in San Diego?
Yeah.
And what did you experience?
So I would just learn how to navigate the first year. My second year, I actually dropped out of college. I took a leave of absence because I was having difficulty staying academically afloat. And at that time, I had a lot of anger to deal with because it was just a lot going on. I didn't really know how to develop or mature. I was maturing. I was trying to learn how to mature as a man, and pretty much my fraternity there was some issues that happened and pretty much got suspended from the fraternity. And so I was like, you know what? I just didn't want to stay there anymore. And I was like, I'll be back. I told my counselor, I'll be back. And the amount of people that come back is like 1%. That
really?
Back. So I took a leave of absence and went to City College, just back home, CSF, to like help my family, help support, and then I took classes there and worked. And so at the end of that time, when I went back home, two of my brothers got shot. They tried to rob them. And so there's a lot of haters, and there's a lot of people that are when there's lack of resources, if somebody feels like they have some more than enough, people are going to resort to stealing and robbing from each other. And so that's the issue that we have to deal with as a Black and brown community. And so two of my brothers got shot, and then 2 weeks later, I got in a motorcycle accident, and I messed up my leg. I needed to get surgery later down the line. I eventually did well at the community college and came back to UCSD. And so that's kind of where I met one of my mentors, Wayne Yang. Oh. And so he's the provost of Muir College now. And so he's
that's where I went, Muir College.
Yeah. So he's an ethnic studies professor over there, and he's just there you go.
Let me shout him out. Wait, when did you all take this picture?
We took this October 2019. Was it last year? Yeah.
Before you talk about him, talk about your experience as a student under him. Who is Professor Yang? Because he's a pillar of not even UC San Diego, but he lived in the Bay for a while. Absolutely. He even ran his own school in Oakland.
Yep.
So anyways, I'll let you, because you know him better than I do.
He's an educator. He graduated from Harvard. He went to UC Berkeley as well, got his doctorate. He taught for about close to 20 years in Oakland. And he started at UC San Diego in 2006, 2007, around the same time we started. And so at that time, he was flying once a week from Oakland to San Diego to teach. So he started off at ethnic studies, and he moved his way up. He was like the chair of ethnic studies, and now he's the provost of a college. And so he's the one that they really introduced me to ethnic studies. And really just that time I was really angry and lost. And the only emotions I really got out was anger because of all the stuff that was happening in my life. I didn't know how to make sense of it. And so he really he's a really calm guy. He's like the opposite, kind of like the opposite of me sometimes. And so he just and so he was just there, and then he kept supporting me, and then just, invited me to different events, and really introduced me to my advisor, Yolanda Escamilla. She was a phenomenal mentor and advisor for ethnic studies. And so they really held me down to stay rooted and really just mature. And so
I only took one class with him, and his teaching approach was, I don't even know, you probably have a better word for it, but it was not only revolutionary, but it just felt like he really cared, right? And I remember in that class, the final was to do a project. You know what's funny? The final project was to create our own podcast. Bro, I remember now. Yeah, because we got paired in groups of 3, and before I think it was even called a podcast, he told each group to create like I don't even know what it was, like a radio program radio on a subject, an ethnic studies subject. And so we had to like, just create a whole story on one of the topics. Anyway, side note, but I remember him because I took his class all the way in my senior year. I didn't take him prior to that. And I was always mad that it wouldn't align with my schedule. But I remember him fondly because one of the students who was my buddy invited me to their final presentation. I was like, whoa, like anyone can go to the final presentation? And he's like, oh yeah, come over. Where's it going to be? And he's like, it's going to be at the pub. I was like, you mean like the pub where we all go and drink? He's like, yeah, that's exactly where we're having our final presentation at the pub. You can grab your drink. And the final was something around like, tell us about one thing that you do really well and explain like your craft. I remember a gentleman talked about how to dress properly, how to dress very nice, what it means to wear a suit, what does a suit entail? And he just broke it down, and that was his presentation. But anyways, so his way of teaching was very unorthodox compared to a lot of UC San Diego, which was very rigid, right?
Well, I think what stood out about Wayne was that he kept it real. And even though he has a soft and caring voice and more like, he got the style, he always wears the hat. That's why he influenced me to start rocking the hat.
Get out.
He took me to Puerto Rico in 2012. He invited me. I went out there and then we just explored and really he showed me, and he's been telling me you should work with the youth. You should work with the youth for like 8 years, 7 years. I tell them, hell nah, I'm cool. I told him, nah. I was like, hell nah, I don't want to be no educator because I thought I had to be a robot. I thought I had to teach a certain way, and I hated school. But I knew that I could help students, and I kept it real. Authenticity is a big core value of mine, and so I learned a lot of stuff from him. And so I took like two of his classes, I believe. Yeah.
And so after you graduated from UCSD, did you know after taking Wang's classes, Yang's classes, that you wanted to be a counselor?
Hell no. Nah, I didn't want nothing to do with education at that time. I was just like money hungry. I was like, I need to make some money. I need to do well. I need to do whatever it takes. That was more the hustler mentality, at that time. And so not later till down the line to really really a lot of stuff happened that made me switch into wanting to be a counselor. And so later down the line, I finished UCSD 2011. I left early. I said, I'm leaving early. I need to do 2 math classes to officially graduate. It took me 2 years to take 2 math classes. To take 2 math classes. I moved back to San Francisco. I took it at City College. I couldn't pass it. Boom. I said, I'm done. So I even lived in Oakland for a year. And so I took a class at Laney College. And when I went to Laney College, San Francisco, very diverse, very, very, very diverse. You can see all types of race, colors, ethnic group, abilities, the whole thing. When I went to Oakland, I was like, damn, I never seen so many Black people in the college. Like this is cool because I was like, where are they? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was also a problem at UCSD.
And UCSD 1.7% Black people at that time, right? And so when I went to Oakland, I was like, Laney College, I was like, wow, this is cool. But when I walked into my math class, there was only 2 Black people in there. I was like, what? and so that kind of like popped an idea in my mind. I'm just like, what the hell? And so I took the math classes and I got support there, and then I ended up passing. So that's where I got my undergraduate degree. And then not till later on, I even went to get my I got an AS degree in real estate. So I just renewed my real estate license through Merritt College. So I enjoyed my time. Yeah. So I enjoyed my time over there. And then later on, I was like, man, like it started clicking to me. I was like, maybe I am destined to be more of a counselor. And then I applied in 2013 to USC and and then San Diego State for counseling. I did not get in. I was not at the right time. I guess for whatever reason, it wasn't meant to be. I didn't really understand the game at that time. And then I didn't get in. I didn't really ask people for help. And then not till 2016, 2017, around that time, I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready and I want to be a counselor. And like a lot of bad things had to happen, man. for me to get to really wake up and see what I wanted to do. And so my little nephew got killed in 2014 in the
Right.
Mission District.
Right.
Let's see, I had a business partner. I was in the cannabis industry for a while, and my business partner burnt me, and then I tore my ACL playing basketball around 2016.
I
And
remember
so
that time. I
yeah,
remember that.
and so all of that had to happen. It's like, man, this is not the life I want to live. I need to rebuild, and I need to start fresh and really figure out what's for me. And so I always tapped in with Wayne. And when I go to San Diego, like he shows me love. Like I stayed in this house plenty of times. He invited me to yeah, I've been to Puerto Rico with him. He invited me for a conference, and so he's always provided me a lot of wisdom. And then I was like, you know what? I should be a counselor, because he came to San Francisco, went to karaoke one night with my friend Patty and a few other people, and he was like, "You should be a community college counselor. They get paid well. They only pay 4 days out the week, and blah 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 blah." And so I was like, so it's I don't forget what he says, but at the same when I was young, I was like, nah. So a lot of our youngsters, they're hard headed. That's just what it is. As a Latino male, some of us grew up hard headed, and so we have to learn how to teach our youngsters how to be more open minded, so they could be receptive
Well,
and learn.
you know, and this is probably a whole separate conversation. We can spend a whole hour on this, but you know, we're gonna, you know, you can reference USC. Part of it is what you learn in theories and practices in your master's program at USC, but really the big part of it is your life experience. When you say a lot of these young Latino people of color, they're hard-headed, like what approach do you take that's maybe different to kind of make some sense? Because like you said, it's hard to really knock some sense sometimes. So how do you, what's that special sauce that you got, Charlie?
So what I feel like, because I have firsthand experience in understanding what it is to have housing insecurity, food insecurity, growing up in a big family, being bilingual, and then in a mixed status family, I have all these experiences that I did not know was going to be of value to me in building rapport and empathizing with people. So being empathetic is one of the biggest ways that I know how to really have students that I work with be student centered. I'm client centered. So I'm able to meet you wherever you're at. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not here to hate on you. I'm here to meet you at your level and to see where you're at. And so that's one of the theories, is being student centered. And then by equity minded is pretty much equity in the education sense is getting what you need when you need it. Learned that from Jeff Duncan Andrade.
Hey, and when you go back, so USC, what was some of the one of the bigger takeaways from your courses?
The biggest takeaway is that I got reinforcement to myself that I am able and to compete at the highest level. Once I understood that education, a lot of people don't understand
the rules of the game, or
they don't really understand how to connect with people. And the education field, the game is flawed in so many ways. There's so many gaps and so many things that they're missing. And so the humanizing approach, the empathetic approach, the student centered, the equity minded is where I add value to the game. You get what I'm saying? And people, if they don't, and so by doing this, it's like, look, we are critical thinkers. We have what it takes to compete at the highest level. At USC, there's only 11% Latino graduate students, Latinx graduate students. When the city of LA is 49% Latinos. So why does not the university, the city that it's in, reflect the population that it's in? There's a big gap that needs to be addressed there. There's 1.3 million Latinx college students right now in colleges right now, but the Latino males, they do not graduate at the same rate. They lag in degree attainment and retention and persistence.
What USC is in LA. Did you ever think about staying in LA or in SoCal?
Absolutely. So I did 2 years in the counseling program. And so I was thinking at the time when I was ready to graduate, I needed to stay a summer extra. And so I stayed for summer school. and then I was considering LA because that's where your network at. So any college that you go to, most likely that's where your professional network's going to be at. But at the same time, I knew that I will go harder if I came home, because these are my neighbors' kids, these are our community's kids, and these are people that we grew up with and their kids, people I went to school with. And so I was blessed enough with the opportunity. I took the gamble. I was like, I'm going to go back home because that's where I need to be.
Yeah, And where have you worked since? Where have you applied a lot of these skill sets that you gained through your USC program?
Oh man. So the USC program taught me professionalism. It told me how to use theory and make it to practice. But in terms of practice, what really gave me the competitive edge is those hustling skills that I learned from our people in our community, from my older siblings, from being in out in the streets, and really from our culture and our people, our ancestors, our family. Those are the core values that will set you apart. But the institution will try to transition you into being more, losing that authenticity and losing the cultural values by trying to act a certain way. And so you need to get people is not going to connect with that because that don't work in our head. Yeah.
Nope.
And so I just try to keep transparency, and authenticity is a big core value that makes the difference.
Tell me about where you want to go. Where do you want to move around the next 5-10 years? With your gift.
I forgot to answer your question. So I worked at Laney College just this summer. I run a Latino empowerment program called the Hermanos Program through Skyline College, which is a service 130 students around San Mateo County. We have partnerships with Parkway Heights Middle School, South City High School, and Cappuccino High School. We teach college level courses to students who are struggling academically and kind of respark their engagement to look at community college as their pathway to their careers. San Jose City College, I worked as a general counselor, and I was on the Male Students of Color Task Force, which learns to look at the equity gaps to close that gap, so we could support and intentionally graduate and persist and close that gap for our students. And then right now, I'm in the interview process, so I'm potentially being at College of San Mateo. Bakersfield Community College is in that realm. So it just depends where they need me, and I feel like I try to go not only where there's more popular, but more of where do they need the work to be done. I was never the person to go in and say, "Oh, I want all the fame, I want all the glory. Let me be in front of the scenes." Right. I was always the guy that keep that camera away from me. I'd rather be behind the scenes, but I'd rather be acknowledged for the work that I do in person. Right. I'm a heart-to-heart, high-touch type of guy.
Yeah,
And so when we look at equity, it's not only getting what you need. The flip side of equity is you need to give up some of your resources and some that you have to give to people that need it the most. And in that sense, we will all benefit from it. And that's ultimately what we've been doing. So this week, I'm the front and center of the spotlight, but next week it's like a baseball team. Whoever's up next, okay, we're gonna rally behind them and support them and uplift them. For example, one of my former students, Ashley Monterosa from Leadership High School, her brother just got killed from Vallejo PD was it like 2 months ago?
Right.
We needed to show up and show out for her. The Monterosa family has been fighting for justice, and we need to hold the police accountable. And that's why you see all of these
movements that are occurring right now.
And so it's not about me; it's about we, right? So that's the part of equity that I emphasize and try to live out each day.
And at the end of it, when we talk about Real City Ambassadors podcast, and creating a platform, it is with an equity lens, in the sense that I want to give that platform to as many people as possible. Like I said, the people that are known, fine, but the people that are unknown, or those that are rising legends, are the ones that I want to highlight specifically here. Because just one thing that I noticed, I listen to podcasts, and I have for the last 2-3 years, and there's some in San Francisco, but sometimes I don't see people like myself being represented or hearing their stories in these platforms. And less are the number of hosts that are from San Francisco, right? That can really speak to the experience of living as a San Franciscan And so part of the reason why I'm doing this, why we're doing this is to do that, to highlight and bring a voice to the people so we can record history,
Absolutely.
And speaking of history, I kind of want to end this by walking down through memory lane a little bit with you. I want to talk about certain spaces or areas in San Francisco that are near and dear to your heart. So just three things. And I'm going to probably ask the same three to every person in the Bay. What's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite park? And your favorite street or streets in San Francisco? So, restaurante.
Well, for over 20 years, our family's been going to La Santaneca Pupusaria in Bernal Heights. About a couple of years ago, they actually shut down. And so this is off of Richland and Mission.
Hold up. This one right here, right?
Yes. So every time we go there, like my family, even my dad passed away in 2012. And so it just reminds me of my dad and really gets me in touch with my Salvadoran roots. And so I used to go to this restaurant all the time. And so it's no longer there, but they have another restaurant that unfortunately, another restaurant called the Flor de Izote that's there. So I still go there. And so it's not quite the same, but it still brings back some memories.
The space is near and dear to your heart, right? And that's what's so important, especially for us San Franciscans. Yes, change is inevitable and change is necessary. But sometimes change is done without our consent, right? And without taking people's memories and emotions into consideration, because it's not tied with money. And in the city, it's filled with millionaires, new money, and that's fine if it benefits certain folks that do positive things in our community. But one thing you've seen, especially with small businesses, property owners want to flip the space and they want to just squeeze as much money out of it without taking into account that this place, La Santaneca there, was a staple to so many families, and now it's changed. It's fine. It's not the same, like you said, but even the space already holds a place in a lot of people's minds. So the park, like, what's a park that you used to frequent?
Man, my sisters would always, pretty much I was raised by my two older sisters. They're twins. They would always take us to Ralph's Park, across the street from La Raza Park on Potrero, between 26th and 25th.
Let me see. Okay.
So that's where I learned how to play basketball. Yeah, that's where I learned how to play tennis. Believe it or not, people play tennis in the city. That's where I learned how to.
Latino people play tennis.
Yeah. That's where I learned how to play ping pong, and so that rec center is definitely close to my heart, and I always bring back childhood memories.
And we already talked about this. I know which street is one that you hold dearly.
Well, Balmy Street, and then that leads to the 24th Street, the Latino Cultural District, is near and dear to my heart because Carnaval every year brings back memories, and then just the small businesses, and just that's where you feel the most valued and appreciated, and just like you're part of something. And so that community is big. And so the community aspect, you're the one that brought me into Carnival about 5-6 years ago. And since then we've been rocking because the leaders now, they're I consider like the dinosaurs. They're the last of a dying breed. And so they're going to need to pass the torch to the younger generation. And so as a counselor, as a community member, the way I show up for my people is I become a bridge. I bridge people to the resources and support they need. And so that's what we've been doing through this podcast as a bridge, the older generation and the younger generation, and we're in the middle. And so it's important for us to carry the torch and then be ready to pass it on to the youngsters in that. So that's why we've been doing relentless work with servicing the Latino community. I can't be at every event because I also service the Alameda County community, the San Mateo County and San Jose community But when I get a chance through, let's see, the community partnerships that I've been involved with, the city eats. We feed the homeless and food insecure community in the city and throughout the Bay Area. Let's see, All in SF, the coalition.
Shout out.
We've been doing the backpack giveaways, and I've done photography for both, and also help them distribute and then create and whatever it is that they need. So I play my position strategically. Also been Carnival San Francisco, Calle 24, helping whatever capacity that I can. And so it's important to acknowledge in all these spaces. I think it's really important. Every space that I've been of, I want to say the Latina woman has been at the grunt of all the foundational work. So I want to give a big shout out to the Latina women out there, because they're the most economically disadvantaged group out there. They get paid 53 cents to the white man's dollar. And so because I have 7 sisters and understand the economic gaps and equity gaps that exist, I just want to say I see you, I acknowledge you, and I support y'all.
That's what's up. And that's a great way to wrap it up, man. We hit the 1 hour mark, our first episode, and many to come. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being part of this journey, for being a Real City ambassador, and for passing down the torch to these young people of color, disenfranchised communities that want to get a better education. So, I want to thank you for that. And with that, without further ado, mi gente, my peeps, San Francisco Bay, stand up. Yay! Peace. Yay! Ciao.
Peace.